all the technology about now, we can sort of keep track on what's going on outside of our waters. And one thing that's become apparent is what's happening out off Tema at the moment, where they're trolling up the spawning blue grenadier. Hasn't been fished for 5 years because our trawlers here didn't have the capacity to sort of handle that tonnage. So we've got our factory freezer trawlers from New Zealand out there at the moment. Fortuna Sealord. 12,169 tonnes, I think it is, they're going to take of that spawning stock. I've been dead against trawlers and the effects that they've had on our marine environment since I can't remember. You look at how they started in '85, Eastern Gemfish. 2 years later, they fucked it. Here we are 30 odd years later, they put a rebuilding strategy in place and they still haven't recovered. Then they moved on to the limitless orange roughy. 2 years later, they were gone. They've only just recently opened up an area to fish again, which is dubious at best. Then they found our snotties. Now, I had a small business in Wynyard. I was catching me 8 and 9 tonne of snotties every year, mostly 2-year-olds, 2 to 3-year-old fish. I believe they came from up in the northeast, around Gaybo Island, I think it is. Well, anyway, I did a bit of research. In '92, it was like somebody turned the tap off in my business. What was common every year, you could set your clock on them, there was nothing. Disappeared. I thought, that's a bit odd. Anyway, it was only recently, a few years back, I got the iPad and did a bit of research. They moved on to them as well, and in 2 years, they were gone. I think they caught somewhere in the vicinity of 1,800 tonne of spawning mature fish the first year. This is deep water netters and trawlers. And they threw 400 to 500, 600 tonne over the side as bycatch. And you've got to remember, no cameras, and it was up to them whether they recorded it or not. They say they had observers in the industry, sure, but they only covered 3% of the time of the trawls. So, you know, they're getting away with whatever they can. What we should be calling for is cameras on all of these trawlers. They instilled them on our shark boats on the west coast. They have to have cameras fore and aft on the deck over where they're hauling up. Why aren't the trawlers doing the same? If you look up the Commonwealth Protected Species Interaction Reports, have a look at the albatross, seals and other wildlife protected species being killed every quarter so we can catch a spawning stock of fish, which, should we be doing that? Can you imagine you're taking 12,169 tonne of mature spawning biomass out of the water before most likely they've had the chance to release those eggs. Can you imagine the amount of food that would come from those recruits from that 12,169 tonne? Now I'll tell you what happened in the 80s. We used to get a run of these things. We called them whiptail. They were about yay long. There was that many of them in the water. They'd swim through our 4 1/4 inch mesh and they'd catch on the teeth, and I used to fill 2 or 3 bins up. That was every year. They were common as dog muck. And guess when they started trawling them? 92. And they haven't been here since. So, do we really need trawlers in today's age? And in Tasmania, should we not be calling for the best managed fisheries in the world? And quite rightly, a lot of these recreationals are up in arms. Strict bag limits, spawning closures, all the rest of it. And yet just out over the horizon, and they've got a fish meal plant on board this thing too. And Fortuna Sealord, guess where they want to come? Up in our fucking northwest. Jesus Christ, wake up, people. This is a foreign-owned company that is trashing our waterways, killing our shy albatross. We've got the largest population of shy albatross on the planet out here. Should we not be protecting all these areas from them? No, this is just illogical. And we do get nothing from it. 12,000 odd tonne. What do we get? A couple of forklift drivers in Burnie where they unload it out of sight of everyone. Yeah, that's a good return to the community. And you got to remember, we own these bloody fish. They do not belong to some rich bastard to come in and take quota. Now let's talk about quota. Who owns all that now? Abs working poor, crayfishermen working poor, taking all the risk, doing all the work, and getting a pittance in return. And don't forget the population that own these fucking fish. We can't even access them at a reasonable price. And it just shows recently that people are willing to pay a decent price if they can get access to the fish they own. Should we not be demanding what our fishermen get and access to our fish stocks, not have to wait for it to come back from wherever or fly to China to eat it? No, wake up, people. We have an amazing opportunity here going forward to manage our fisheries, to provide a strong economic broad return to the general community, which is mentioned in the Act. Abalone, where's the broad return to the general community from that? And it's ridiculous that the commercial sector can take a size above which the recreationals can. Now, where does that leave the recreationals? You know, it just makes me so mad. I wake up this morning with a bit of shit on the liver. If you want to have a good song, listen to King Parrot, Shit on the Liver, and you'll get where I'm coming from. They're amazing film clip. I think the fellow was from Lonnie too. Anyway, back to the fishing. We have to unify. I am sick of standing up, trying to get something done, to be shouted down by some peanut that isn't even from here. Come in and, he's a fucking granny. Fucking granny. Fair dinkum, mate. It just makes me so wild. Now is the time for the recreationals, for the commercial fishermen with a long-term interest and a view in this industry so our kids can enjoy what we grew up with. And I tell you right now, if we don't act in the next few years,